Hey, it's Heidi. I have an official microphone because there's nothing worse than trying to watch a video and it's like quack, quack volume. I'm going to try not to do that. But I have to tell you before we get into today's video that I have just discovered, is it ASMR? Is that what that is? Where people come on and they're making all these sounds with their voices and tapping on things. Do you even know what I'm talking about? It's like I used to think that I had a phobia around like sounds and noise, like especially people like chewing popcorn or chewing stuff in my ears. It's a real disorder. I think it's called misophonia. But apparently is it ASMR? Is that what it is? I think it is, where it's like all these different sounds and hello, Anyway, it's got millions of views on YouTube. It's mind-blowing. That is not what we're going to talk about today. Today, we're going to talk about something on my mind and heart that I think it could be a pattern that you're running. And if it is a pattern that you're running, I want to talk about where it comes from and what you can do about it, because you deserve to have relationships that are deep, meaningful, mutually beneficial, that light you up, that fill you with joy and happiness, not anxiety, confusion, resentment, or pain. And this channel is all about codependency recovery and toxic relationships, dysfunctional people, how we grow up in an environment like that or end up in situations like that. And to the pattern that I'm going to talk about today, which is sabotaging intimacy, is something unique to the withholder pattern. Now, when I talk about the pattern today, just know at any time you can go over to lovecoachheidi.com and you can download my new book, Attachment Personality Patterns, Identifying Your Unique Codependency Programming. That's a really long title. But in the book, there are 5 core traits of each of these different patterns. And what all codependency is when you're born into a family that's not firing on all cylinders. Maybe there's an addict or an alcoholic or a smotherer or an absent person or a rejecting person or a borderline or bipolar or sick. Any number of things. We're born in this family and we're like, what do I need to do in order to be loved? Who do I need to be? And we're not ourselves, we're who we need to be. So we put on a mask and we try on these different personalities and find a way to attach. We find a way to thrive, survive, connect, or cope in that family dynamic, and that's an attachment issue. And that's what codependency is. It's an attachment issue. And so I've identified 8 different attachment styles, and you can find yours, your personality pattern, and we can learn how to break those patterns once and for all, because at the end of the day, what we're really trying to do is excavate your authentic self. Is figure out who you really are when you stop being who you need to be. And the withholder has this pattern of sabotaging intimacy. Now, what you need to know is that a withholder longs for intimacy. They actually want that closeness, they want that connection, but they usually just keep people at an arm's distance because they're afraid. They're really afraid, number one, of actually getting too close to somebody and needing them. Because underneath of it all, the real fear of the withholder, the core kind of wounding, is this trust. It's a safety issue for a withholder. So they're feeling like, hey, if I get too close to you, you're going to hurt me, or you're going to leave me, or you're going to use my vulnerability against me. So when a withholder gets into a relationship with somebody and they start to really connect and they're finding themselves opening up and wanting to be close, when they share, a withholder will automatically have like an intimacy hangover. It's almost like when you wake up after a night of doing the things and you wake up and you go, oh shit, who did I text? Oh God, what happened last night? Oh shit, check my pictures, and you're trying to piece the night together. Well, a withholder will have that shame spiral when they share more of themselves. And it could be in any environment. It could be in a work situation. It could be, and all of a sudden there will be this subconscious urge from the withholder to restore the balance of safety, to maintain my distance from you so that you don't get too close to me, I don't end up needing you, and you don't abandon me or use my intimacy against me somehow. Again, it's a trust issue. Safety for a withholder is the number one thing. So how do you do that? How do you sabotage intimacy? Well, let's say that you have an exchange with somebody where they see more of who you are. You expose more of who you are. Maybe you share an embarrassing story. Maybe you share a detail about your life or your history. Again, as a withholder, you long for that connection with people. What you find, though, is that people will tell you everything, and they'll share with you lots of things. So you can go very deep. It's just that you don't go very deep with sharing parts of you with that person. So you can have these wonderful kind of deep connections, but you'll never really feel known. A withholder won't feel known. So if somebody starts to know you and get in there a little bit, that brings up immense anxiety in you. You start to panic and you start to play the tape in your head and wonder, what are they thinking of me now? Did I share too much? Should I have talked about that? I really shouldn't have said that. I wonder who they're going to tell. I wonder if they're going to hold this against me. I wonder if they're thinking negatively. You see how this kind of now neurotic thinking kicks in with the withholder. And you've got to get back your bearings. So how do you do that? How do you withhold and sabotage that intimacy? Multiple things. You might pick a fight. You might the next day or within the next few minutes even find something that's wrong, something that could have happened already, and get into an argument and totally distract. You might leave that person's presence who you really liked and you got vulnerable with them. Maybe it's a dating situation, and you'll go home and you'll start to think about all the things you don't like about that person. You'll be like, oh, you know what? I don't think they're really that smart. In fact, I don't really think that they're that interesting anyway. And I bet you they probably can't be with me anyway because they're never going to be able to keep up. And I didn't really like their shoes or the way they talked or, and I bet they're their family. You start talking yourself out of the relationship as soon as you get a little closer. If you're already in a relationship with somebody and you get a little closer and you have that breakthrough, what you might do to sabotage the intimacy is withhold affection or attention a little bit later on. So you'll use something else. You'll withhold that physical affection, and you'll just kind of put a wall up, a barrier up. So I understand, and it is very normal for you to do that as a withholder because, again, safety is your number one concern. The challenge is when you opened yourself, where did this come from? When you opened yourself up as a little kid and you were vulnerable with your feelings or your physical space, people crossed your boundaries. People came into your space and they probably did use your vulnerability against you, or letting somebody close to you was painful for you. And so you learned how to put these walls up. What you need to remember is today is a new day. And if you're picking the right people, and you've worked on that, then likely you are safe now. But we think, oh, I'm still not safe. And you're living out of a pattern and almost like you're on autopilot. And so what we need to do is first cultivate an awareness of how you throw those walls back up and what you do to sabotage that intimacy so that you don't have to need somebody, so they don't have to leave you and you could not get hurt. But here's the truth. Holding people at an arm's distance, not letting people close to you, and sabotaging intimacy already hurts. It's just a pain you're familiar with. It's the devil you know versus the devil you don't. But I'm here to tell you, letting somebody close to you and cultivating intimacy and being, allowing yourself to take that step forward is a lot less painful than the loneliness that you feel on a regular basis, feeling like nobody knows you and nobody really sees you and nobody really understands you. And if they did, it wouldn't be good anyway. All right. So go over to lovecoachheidi.com, download that free book, Attachment Personality Patterns, and start to look at some of these different things and see if you've run that pattern. Lots of withholders, when they're stressed out, will, when somebody does then pull away, they'll move into like a clinger pattern, and you can vacillate between a withholder and a clinger. And clingers and withholders get into relationships together. Often it's the same side of the codependent coin. So a clinger will attract a withholder will attract a clinger, and we'll do this dance together. You want me, I don't want you. I want you, you don't want me. If you're interested in that, I'm going to be making another video on clingers and withholders in love and in relationships. So make sure you're subscribed to this channel, like this video. It helps us help more people, right? The goal is to really take a look at these patterns and where they came from and start to break free from them, and how do you do that? Well, the first step out of anything is awareness. It's to recognize you're running that pattern. See, I know you're running that pattern, right? I can look at you and I can say, oh, you're running a withholder pattern, right? Especially if we're in a coaching situation or you come into life school, one of our programs. But here's the problem with your partners or the people that you're withholding from. They don't know, or your children even, okay? When we can do this with how you do one thing is how you do a lot of things many times. So if you're finding yourself doing this, and I can say, well, I know why you're doing that. You're running this pattern. I know why. I can have compassion because I know where it came from and how it developed in you. Do you know who doesn't know what's going on? The people you're withholding from. So what are they left to think? They're left to think it's them. And so then they become codependent with you, and they're scratching their head wondering what they did to turn you off or make you pull away. And if you don't know yourself well enough, you're not able to articulate it to the people you love and say, hey, look, this is just part of I'm having an intimacy hangover. I'm probably going to do something to sabotage this later on. You know, it's not that you need to change or you need to like become a different person. You need to become aware of your stuff and make it known to the people you love so that we can all kind of have this radical acceptance of who we are and deal in who we are, right? And then eventually you can when you call that behavior out on yourself and your partner knows how to deal with you, eventually that behavior will go away because you're just so aware of it, you can stop yourself as you're doing it. You know, that's what the goal of recovery is from these codependency patterns, is like when you catch yourself withholding, know what you're doing. You don't know that now because you're blaming the other person. Well, they're making me do this. You know, you start to think what's wrong with them and then so that you can maintain that distance. I know this video is helpful. I know that you're watching this and you're going, oh my God, how does she know that I do that? That is so weird. What is going on here? It's because I used to do that. I was a withholder pattern and a controlling pattern, okay, and a pleaser pattern. I was have been all the patterns at one point, but we have a dominant one that kind of runs our relationship stuff, and that's the root of your relationship issues. So I want to help you unravel that. If you're interested in more on how to unravel that codependency pattern and have the love you really deserve, go over to lovecoachheidi.com, send me a message, schedule a consultation, download the book. Let's start to deepen our relationship, all right? I look forward to seeing you again in another video. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.